Picture this moment very clearly. Your heart drops before your eyes even fully process what's happening. You flush the toilet. The water rises instead of going down, and suddenly time slows. That quiet, terrifying pause. The bowl filling higher. The sound of water that should never sound like that. In that instant, your brain races. Where's the plunger? What if it overflows? What if someone else is in the house? What if guests are here? Panic creeps in fast because a clogged toilet is not just a problem, it's an emergency. Now here's the question that keeps people glued to this moment. What if you had a way to fix this without a plunger, without chemicals, and without calling anyone, and it worked in just 10 minutes? No mess, no stress, no embarrassment, just calm control. Stay with this, because what you're about to learn turns one of the most stressful household emergencies into something you can handle quietly, confidently, and fast. Let's be honest, toilet clogs don't happen when it's convenient. They happen late at night, early morning, right before guests arrive, or in a bathroom everyone uses. And when it happens, most people make the same mistake. They panic and act fast. They flush again. They grab anything nearby. They pour random products. And instead of fixing the clog, they push it deeper, tighter, worse. That's why some clogs turn into disasters. But the truth most people don't know is this. Almost every toilet clog can be released gently. You don't need force. You don't need chemicals. You don't even need tools. You need understanding, timing, and the right sequence. And once you understand how a clog actually behaves, you stop fearing it. Let me tell you a real-life story, because this is where it all becomes real. A man in California, small apartment, one bathroom, no plunger, late night, toilet clogs badly, water rising, panic setting in. He's Googling solutions while standing there, watching the bowl like it's a ticking bomb. Instead of forcing anything, he pauses. He waits. He tries a calm method someone mentioned casually. He steps away. 10 minutes later, the water drops on its own. The clog releases. No overflow. No mess. No chemicals. That moment changed how he handles plumbing forever. Here's the first thing you must understand. A toilet clog is not a solid wall. It's usually a soft blockage, paper, waste, air pressure imbalance. Most of the time, the clog isn't stuck because it is strong, it is stuck because it is stressed. When you add pressure too fast, it locks in place. When you remove pressure slowly, it relaxes and moves. That's why plungers work not because of force, but because of pressure changes. And once you understand that, you can recreate the effect without a plunger. Let's start with the first emergency method, the calm reset. This is the one that saves more toilets than anything else. When the water is high, do nothing for 2-3 minutes. That sounds wrong. Your instinct screams to act. But waiting allows the water to soften the blockage. Paper absorbs water. Waste loosens. Air pockets shift. During this pause, gravity is already working for you. Now comes the key move. Slowly pour hot water into the bowl, not boiling, just hot. You pour it from waist height, not close to the bowl. Why? Because height creates gentle pressure without shock. The water pushes down evenly, encouraging the clog to slide instead of jam. This alone clears a shocking number of clogs in under 10 minutes. And here's where curiosity kicks in, because people watching this always think, okay, but what if that doesn't work? That's where the next layer comes in. The second emergency method uses something everyone has but never thinks to use this way: dish soap. Dish soap is designed to break grease and reduce friction. Most toilet clogs involve friction. When you add dish soap to the bowl, it coats the blockage and the pipe. It doesn't attack, it lubricates. That's important. You pour a generous amount into the bowl. You wait a few minutes. Then you add hot water again, slowly. What's happening now is invisible but powerful. The soap slides into the blockage. The water pressure nudges it. The clog loosens instead of resisting. Many clogs release quietly at this stage, no dramatic swirl, just a gentle drop. Now let's pause and talk about something critical: what not to do. Never flush repeatedly during a clog. Each flush adds pressure without relief. That's how overflows happen. Never mix random chemicals. That's dangerous and unnecessary. And never shove objects into the bowl. That pushes the clog deeper and can damage the toilet. Now imagine this scenario: the water starts to lower slightly but doesn't fully clear. This is where people usually give up. But this is actually a good sign. It means the clog is weakening. You're close. This is where the 10-minute method truly shines. You repeat the hot water and soap step once more, slowly, calmly, and then you wait again. That waiting period matters. During that time, the clog continues to soften, the pipe relaxes, air pressure equalizes, and often, without warning, the water level drops suddenly. That moment feels almost magical because you didn't fight. You let the system reset itself. Now let's talk about a different kind of clog, the silent one. The toilet doesn't overflow, but it flushes weakly. Water rises slowly, drains slowly, smells linger. This kind of clog is sneaky. It builds over time, and plunging often makes it worse. For this type, the emergency solution is patience plus heat. Hot water expands the pipe slightly. That expansion creates space. Combined with lubrication from soap, it allows buildup to slide through. People who try this are often shocked at how effective it is. Here's another real-life story. A family in Texas had a toilet that flushed weakly for months. They assumed it was just old. One night, it almost overflowed. Instead of plunging, they used the calm hot water method. Not only did the clog clear, the toilet flush better than it had in years. Why? Because partial blockages were finally released instead of compressed. Now let's talk about why chemicals are a bad idea, especially in emergencies. Chemical drain cleaners generate heat. That heat can crack porcelain, warp pipes, and harden organic blockages instead of dissolving them. They also don't work instantly, which is exactly what you need during an emergency. Worse, if you later need help, chemicals make the situation dangerous for anyone else involved. Natural methods work because they respect how toilets are designed. Toilets are gravity systems. They want balance, not aggression. Now let us build suspense a little, because there's one more emergency trick that almost no one knows, and it works shockingly well. Air pressure. Toilets rely on airflow. When air gets trapped, flushing fails. Sometimes the clog isn't solid, it's an airlock. The solution? Seal and release. You close the toilet lid. You sit gently on it. You press down slightly, creating a seal. Then you flush once. That pressure shift can break the airlock and allow water to flow normally again. This method sounds strange, but it has saved countless toilets in apartments and older homes. Now imagine being the person who doesn't panic during a clog, the person who doesn't grab random products, the person who calmly handles the situation in minutes. That confidence changes everything. And here's the part viewers don't expect: once you unclog a toilet gently, it's less likely to clog again. Force creates future problems. Gentle release restores normal flow. This is just the beginning. In the next part, we'll go deeper into stubborn clogs, what to do when nothing seems to work, how to prevent clogs completely, and the exact habits that keep toilets flowing smoothly for years. Stay with this, because the next part turns emergency knowledge into long-term control. Stay right here, because this next part is where panic turns into confidence. If someone is still watching at this point, it means they don't just want a quick fix anymore, they want control. They want to understand what's really happening inside that toilet so they never feel helpless again. And once you understand this part, a clogged toilet stops feeling like an emergency and starts feeling like a temporary pause you already know how to handle. Let's rewind the moment for a second. The water rose. You didn't panic. You didn't flush again. You waited. You used hot water. You added dish soap. Maybe the water dropped halfway. Maybe it didn't move at all yet. This is the exact moment where most people give up, and that's why clogs. But here's the truth. A clog that hasn't cleared yet is usually loosening, not getting worse. Toilets don't fail instantly. They respond slowly, and slow responses mean opportunity. Now let's talk about what's actually inside that pipe, because once you can picture it, everything becomes easier. A toilet pipe is curved, not straight. That curve is called a trap. Its job is to hold water and block sewer gas. Most clogs get stuck right at that curve. They're not cemented in place, they're resting there, held by pressure and friction. When you plunge aggressively or flush repeatedly, you compress that clog into the curve like stuffing something into a tight elbow. That's why force backfires. The goal is not to push the clog through. The goal is to help it relax and slide. This is where time becomes your biggest weapon. After the first hot water and soap attempt, you wait again. 5 minutes can feel like forever during a clog, but inside the pipe, something important is happening. Paper fibers are absorbing water. Waste is breaking apart. Soap is coating the surface. The clog is losing structure. It's weakening from the inside. And here's something people don't expect during this waiting period. You may hear subtle sounds. A soft gurgle. A faint shift. That's not danger. That's progress. That's air finding a path. That's water redistributing pressure. Those sounds mean the system is adjusting. Now let's move to the next smart step, and this one feels almost counterintuitive. You add more water, but slower than before. You don't dump it. You pour it in a steady stream. This creates consistent downward pressure without shock. Think of it like stretching instead of snapping. Many clogs release at this exact moment, quietly, without drama. The water level drops, the bowl clears, and suddenly the emergency is over. But what if it still doesn't clear completely? This is where viewers usually lean closer to the screen, because this is the part nobody ever explains. Partial movement is success. If the water level changes even a little, the clog is responding. That means the pipe is open enough for adjustment. At this stage, you repeat the soap and hot water method one more time. That's it. No new tricks yet. Repetition with patience is what finishes the job. Now let us talk about a type of clog that scares people the most, the "it flushed fine yesterday" clog. These happen suddenly and feel unpredictable, but they actually build up slowly over time. Small amounts of paper, residue, and waste cling to the pipe walls until one flush tips the balance. The reason these clogs feel scary is because people assume something broke. It didn't. The system just needs to reset. For these clogs, gentle methods work best. No tools, no chemicals, just lubrication, heat, and time. Once cleared, these toilets often flush better than before because old buildup finally moves. Let's bring in another real-life moment, because this one connects deeply with viewers. A woman in Illinois hosting family for the holidays. One bathroom, toilet clogs right before dinner. No plunger in sight. Panic rising fast. Instead of forcing anything, she remembers a calm method. Dish soap, hot water, waiting. 10 minutes later, the toilet clears. Guests never know. Dinner continues. Stress disappears. That moment turns fear into confidence. And that confidence is what this entire system is about. Now let's address something important: why this works so fast. People hear 10 minutes and think it's too good to be true. But here's the reality. Toilets are designed to clear themselves when conditions are right. Gravity wants to work. Water wants to flow. You're not fixing the toilet, you're removing what is blocking it from doing its job. This is also why chemical cleaners are unnecessary. They promise speed, but they actually slow the process by creating heat, fumes, and hardened blockages. Natural methods work with physics, not against it. Now let's talk about prevention for a moment, because once you clear a clog calmly, the smartest move is making sure it doesn't come back. The number one prevention habit is simple. Never flush again immediately after a weak flush. If a flush feels slow or incomplete, stop. Wait. Add hot water. Let the system recover. Most major clogs start as minor warnings that get ignored. Another powerful habit is controlling paper use. Toilets are designed for waste, not bulk paper. Spreading paper use across flushes instead of all at once reduces pressure spikes that cause clogs. And here's a tip most people never hear: once a month, pour hot water and dish soap into the bowl even when there's no clog. This keeps pipes lubricated and clears early buildup before it becomes a problem. People who do this rarely experience emergencies at all. Now let's go deeper into the psychology of emergencies, because this is what makes viewers stay engaged. Panic makes people act fast and wrong. Calm makes people act slow and right. The moment you stop panicking, the situation improves. That's true for toilets and for life. Think about how different it feels to stand calmly next to a rising toilet knowing you have a plan. That feeling alone is worth learning this system. Now imagine teaching this to someone else, a family member, a friend, a roommate. You're no longer the person who freaks out during plumbing problems. You're the person who handles it quietly. That shift changes how people see you and how you see yourself. And here's the most important realization of all: most toilet clogs don't need to be fixed. They need to be given time to release. Once you accept that, everything else becomes easier. In the next and final part, we'll tie everything together. You'll learn the ultimate emergency checklist: what to do if absolutely nothing works, how to know when to stop and call for help, and the exact outro habits that make clogs rare instead of frequent. This final part is where panic completely disappears, because you'll know you're prepared. Stay with it, because once you see the full picture, a clogged toilet stops being a nightmare and starts being something you already know how to handle. Now this is the final chapter, and this part is not about tricks anymore. It's about closure. If someone has stayed with this video until here, they are no longer scared of a clogged toilet. They're curious, confident, and ready to lock this knowledge in permanently. This is where everything you've learned connects into one clear system, and where panic officially leaves the picture for good. Let's start by grounding everything. A toilet clog feels like an emergency because it threatens embarrassment, mess, and loss of control. Water rising triggers instinctive fear. But now, after everything you've learned, that moment looks different. Instead of panic, you recognize the signals. You understand the behavior. You know that the toilet is not broken, it's paused. And pauses can be handled. The most important thing to remember in any clogged situation is this: time is not your enemy, rushing is. Every successful unclogging story you've heard in this video shares one thing in common. The person stopped forcing and started allowing. Allowing water to soften paper. Allowing heat to relax pipes. Allowing soap to reduce friction. That shift from force to flow is the core of this entire method. Now let's build the ultimate emergency flow, the mental checklist that turns chaos into calm. The moment you notice a clog, you stop flushing. That alone prevents 90% of disasters. You look at the water level. If it's high, you wait. Waiting is not doing nothing, it's letting gravity and absorption begin their work. This first pause already reduces pressure inside the trap. Then comes the gentle assist. Hot water, poured slowly from height, introduces steady downward encouragement. Not shock, not violence, just guidance. If you add dish soap, you're not cleaning, you're lubricating. You're turning a stuck situation into a slippery one. And when you wait again, you're allowing chemistry and physics to do what human force never could. If the water level changes even slightly, that's success. Partial movement means the clog is responding. That's when patience wins. You repeat calmly. You don't change tactics out of fear. You stay consistent. This is where most people fail, not because the method doesn't work, but because they abandon it too early. Now let's talk about the moment of release, because it matters emotionally. When the clog finally clears, it rarely happens with drama. There's no explosion, no splash. It's usually quiet. The water level lowers gently. The bowl empties normally. And in that moment, something powerful happens: relief. Not just relief that the toilet works, but relief that you handled it. That feeling replaces fear with confidence, and confidence is what prevents panic next time. Now let us address the question everyone thinks but rarely asks out loud: what if nothing works? This is important, because real confidence includes knowing your limits. If you've waited, used hot water, soap, repeated calmly, and there is absolutely no movement, no change in water level, no gurgling, no response, that usually means the clog is not soft. It could be a foreign object, something solid. In that case, stopping is the smartest move. Continuing to add pressure only risks overflow. Knowing when to stop is not failure, it's control. But here's the key point. The methods you learned still prevented disaster. You didn't overflow. You didn't flood the floor. You didn't make the problem worse. That alone is a win. And when help is needed, the situation is safer and simpler because you didn't introduce chemicals or damage. Now let's shift into prevention mode, because emergencies are rare when habits are smart. Most clogs are not accidents, they are patterns. Too much paper at once. Weak flushes ignored. Pipes never lubricated. Once you know this, you can break the pattern quietly. One of the smartest habits is treating slow flushes as warnings, not annoyances. A slow flush is the toilet asking for help early. Hot water and soap at that stage prevents full clogs later. People who respond early rarely face emergencies at all. Another powerful habit is spacing flushes. Toilets are gravity systems. They need recovery time. Flushing multiple times in quick succession stacks pressure instead of releasing it. A short pause between flushes keeps flow smooth and predictable. And here's a habit that feels almost as simple: once a month, when there's no clog, pour hot water and dish soap into the bowl and let it sit. This clears invisible buildup before it becomes visible trouble. Think of it as maintenance, not cleaning. Now let's come back to the emotional side one last time, because this is what truly makes the outro powerful. Think about how different it feels to walk into a bathroom knowing you have answers, knowing you won't panic, knowing you won't make things worse. That calm spreads. It affects how you react to other problems too. Confidence compounds. People underestimate how much stress small emergencies add to daily life. A clogged toilet can ruin a morning, delay plans, embarrass someone in front of guests. Removing that stress removes friction from life itself. Now imagine this moment in the future. Someone else flushes. The water rises. They panic. They look at you. And you don't rush. You don't panic. You calmly say, "It's okay. Give it a minute." That authority comes from understanding, not strength. That's the difference between reacting and responding. Everything you've learned here works because it respects how toilets are designed. Toilets are not meant to be battled. They are meant to flow. When flow is blocked, you restore conditions, you don't attack the system. And here's the final truth that ties this entire video together. Most household emergencies feel big because people don't understand them. The moment you understand, fear shrinks, control grows. So the next time a toilet clogs, remember this moment. Remember that you don't need a plunger in a panic. You don't need chemicals that burn and damage. You don't need to rush or force. You need calm, heat, lubrication, and time. Now let's close this out properly. If this video changed how you think about toilet clogs, if it replaced fear with confidence, then you already got more than a quick hack. You learned a system, a mindset, a way to stay calm when things go wrong. And this doesn't stop here. There are many everyday problems that disappear the moment you stop fighting them and start understanding them. Once you see that pattern, you start winning quietly. So take a breath, remember the steps, trust the process. The next time the water rises, you won't. That's the end of this video, but it's the beginning of handling emergencies without stress. Stay calm, stay smart, and let the system work.